while Earth is in danger, the human or the mankind always finds opportunities. And green building is an opportunity or making us think differently to find solutions for a sustainable or a better tomorrow. Had we not had sustainability, we would have not looked at recycling products, we would have not looked at upcycling products, we wouldn't have looked at the waste that we are generating. So because we saw some danger, a lot of businesses have grown out, which is an opportunity for people also.
Yeah.
So sustainability is also an opportunity for people. And so many businesses are evolving out of it.
Welcome to Real Estate Journeys. Our today's guest is Mrs. Pranati Shroff Munot. Pranati Shroff Munot is a Pune-based architect, sustainability advocate, and an entrepreneur. She co-founded Sustain and Save, a company which focuses on green building consultancy as well as sustainability consultancy. Her work revolves around anything and everything to do with sustainability in our daily lives, right from waste management to energy efficient buildings. She has worked with various organizations like Pune Municipal Corporation, FICCI, IGBC, and other international corporations like IKEA. So, let us go ahead and explore the journey of Mrs. Pranati Shroff Munot. Hi Pranati ma'am, how are you?
Doing great, and welcome to our office.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much that I'm honored to have you as my guest over here.
My pleasure.
So, to understand your journey better, we'll need to start from the beginning of it.
True.
That is your childhood. So, where were you born and brought up?
Well, I was born in Mumbai, but I would call myself as Pune 4. तर मी पुण्याची एकदम ते पुणे 4 एज्युकेशन हब ऑफ पुना वेर कल्चर स्पीक सो माय हजबंड अँड मी ऑलवेज जोक नदीच्या पलीकडची आणि नदीच्या अलीकडची सो आय एम दिस नदीच्या अलीकडची अँड हू बिलीव्स इन कल्चर एज्युकेशन पॉवर ऑफ द ट्रू पुणे इसेन्स अँड दॅट्स मी.
Oh, that's nice. And later onwards for your education, what did you do?
So I studied in St. Joseph's, and as my childhood was all about, I call it my ice cream journey.
Okay.
So that's how I look at it because, there's so much so ice is about I, C, and E. So there's so much of impact as a child that whatever you learn in your childhood always stays back. So it's about ice. Eye of your life,
Yeah.
and you should relish everything. So, it's like that melting ice which you should relish in your life. So that is how I look at my childhood journey, full of impact, full of competition. So I grew around with a lot of competition because our family was all about education.
Yes.
So there's a lot of importance in education, and I was genuinely like a middle type of a person who got average marks. I wasn't like a topper, and I was surrounded by toppers with 8 toppers around me. All my cousins were like, "Arey, merit mein nahi aaya to, you're not part of this." So that was the competition that I was surrounded by. And education, that is the E of the ice cream that, surrounded me. And also a lot of entertainment, because if you meet my family, it's a lot of entertainment, a lot of enjoying life. It's full of life. So as you do everything, you should also enjoy life. So that is also something that we did a lot as children.
Very
and
true.
Really relished every moment of being a part of that ice cream journey.
That's amazing. So how you're an architect by profession.
Yes.
Why did you choose to go ahead with architecture?
I think that was something that I decided very early in my journey. Rather, my parents, and I think I would give that to my mother. जैसे वो बोलते हैं ना, before your child is born, you know what your child should be. And that is what it was with me and architecture. So she was very clear when I was a child. I think I come from a construction family.
Yeah.
So, she always, I think in the 6th or 7th, she's thought that I should be an architect. And since then, she kind of ingrained it in me, saying कि आपको architect ही बनना है.
So
like subconscious mind पे काम किया. Of course, I also enjoyed art. I still enjoy art. I still enjoy the entire, journey of working with art. So I have an inclination towards the art, which she realized early in my life, in my journey of growing up. While I do that, I also enjoy, the built environment. So I love working with buildings. I love, like going to a slab. आज भी मुझे कोई बोले कि slab पे जाके खड़ी हो जाए. I think those were days which I really enjoyed. So the buildings or infrastructure really gives me a wow. And I think that's where the entire journey of architecture, and it comes somewhere from my parents, of course.
Definitely.
So that was something that was predefined in my life. And I'm glad I'm an architect today.
And then how did you go from being an architect to a green building consultant? What was that
That transition? Again, a very interesting story I can narrate here is that I remember I was in my final year. So I knew I didn't want to be that typical architect, because somewhere like by the time I was in my final year, I knew it was not the right thing. It's being one of the many types. And I think that was when this whole environment, and I was always conscious, and somewhere it was clicking in my mind. I didn't know what it was. Genuinely, I didn't know what sustainability was all about. I had no clue. And I started researching, I started studying. I graduated in 2007.
Yeah.
And to my, you could say to my advantage, I didn't get married immediately. So that's like an advantage as I look at it, कि immediately शादी होती तो शायद मैं ये सब नहीं करती थी. I would have just been another architect who did typical working drawings, or who did designs. Of course, that's also very fascinating, but I would have been one of those. I didn't get married then, and I was trying to explore कि मैं क्या करूँ, to run away from marriage kind of a situation. And then while I was doing that, I kind of studied sustainability, went deep into it. All my friends went to do masters in 2009, and I said, I'm not going to spend that money, because I had till then done all my education free. I said, I don't want to spend that money, and how do I figure this out? And I then, found out there was this exam in Dubai, which if I cleared, I could become a LEED AP. So that's, what we now know as US Green Building Council and Leadership in Energy. So, all these environment-based exams.
Okay.
So those I could, if I had cleared, I would be somewhere in the system.
Yeah.
Is what I felt. So I decided I would go for that exam, and of course I needed to study. While I was doing, I was sharing this with my parents, and my parents said, "See, people of your age are doing such great stuff in sustainability. You are no class." And he introduced me to a friend, who's a great friend and also a competitor in the business.
Okay.
So he introduced me to her, and we also, her name is Purva, and I genuinely thank her for this little insight that we both started studying together for that LEED exam, and we really enjoyed it. I gave the exam. I flew to Dubai. We both gave the exam. We both cleared it. Thank God. That time we both cleared it. And then one fine day I asked her, what's your age? So, and she said, I am 40. And I was, like 25. So, she was only 20 years older than me.
Yeah.
But we became great friends. So I never realized that she was, actually, like, there was such a big age difference, but we ended up being friends, and she's a great mentor to me also today. But that's how I started my journey in sustainability. Came back from Dubai, after a good holiday post my clearing of exam and having a good time there. Came back, and it's very strange. I was in office doing the standard construction story, and I was, standing out at the parking, and I meet somebody and just start having a conversation. And my first project in the field of sustainability was doing the L'Oreal factory.
Wow.
Which is, again, just over a cup of coffee in the parking. Ki, I don't know you, you don't know me. He says ki hum log, we are stuck. I asked him, aap kya karte? He asked me, aap kya karte? Kind of a thing. I said, this. And then he says, I have a project. Will you do it? I said, why not?
That quick?
So within like 6 months, I had my first project, and we did the L'Oreal factory. So that is how my journey into sustainability began. So I always thank them for giving me that opportunity and trusting me. So that time I worked with them as a part-time. I did not have a company, nothing. It's just, and that's how this journey of sustainability began. And since then, it's never been looking back.
Wow. And afterwards, you said you didn't have a company back then, but you co-founded a company which is now called Sustain and Save. Could you share some story, or what led you to start that company?
So after that, after I took up L'Oreal,
Yeah.
it was the journey began. But again, it was too nascent because I really didn't know. ठीक है एग्जाम दे दी पास हो गए ये सब तो ठीक है but you
Ground
have to have
reality.
ground reality experience, and I met in that journey, I met another friend, called Namrata Dhamankar Zadav. So she is been my, so like you have a life partner, she's been my
Yeah.
work partner since then. So we've been doing things together, and since 2010 we started this journey. We said, she was just married and I was not married that time, and she said chalo kuch karte hain. We didn't know if we would have projects, we didn't, and we started our story with a small company called Sprout, so which is now called, which has been bought over now. It doesn't by Sustain and Save, but the company was called Sprout back then, and that is how Sprout evolved to a small thing. We had 2 projects, 3 projects, in our initial years of sustainable journey, because it was very difficult to actually convince people to take up sustainability.
True.
You're a developer, you know how difficult it is to convince
Yeah.
developers to adopt and take up sustainability. So that is how we began. We don't know our foundation day. We don't know when we started the company. It was just कि चालू किया काम और
Just
bus go on. That is how our journey was. So if you ask me, how very often we sit back and say, ki, when did we start the company? How many years has it been? We really have no dates. We really don't know when it really started. It just started like that. Ki, bas mil gaye, kar diya, ho gaya, kaam bhi aa gaya, karte gaye. And
That's amazing. Why did you choose the name Sprout? Is there a story behind that?
so for me, S is very important.
Okay.
For me, Shroff is my surname, so my paternal surname. So that is very important for us. And everything in our, like all our companies, all our projects have all begun with S. So
Okay.
when we started, it had to begin with S. And then we thought of a lot of interesting names, but we thought tongue twister names would not be very, already concept difficult है और उसमें कुछ तो नाम भी कुछ तो पटांग रखेंगे. So and then we wanted it as simple. So I would think, and there was no registered name under Sprout, and it's still not. There isn't any green building certification company which is called Sprout.
Okay.
So I think that is what we checked, all those things, and it worked well for us. And
So speaking of green buildings, firstly, could you explain to the audience what is a green building?
So let me dissect green buildings. So buildings play a very important role in designing or defining the entire landscape, the entire space journey of a city.
True.
And it's very important that while we have evolved as cities, we have evolved as as a country, and we are all talking about smart cities, we are all talking about going net zero, now decarbonization, ye sab jargons, eco-friendly, energy efficiency. So when we talked about all this, why are we talking about it? The first question that comes is, why are we talking about it? And I think somewhere it is about the country needs it, the world needs it. And the concept of green building evolved with a thought process to reduce, heat island effect, to reduce emissions, because this is something that is evolved, I think, through the COP, meetings, or I think it started in 1994 or something. I'm not very sure of the year that the whole green building movement started, but it's around that time that the green building movement started. While we do this, let me I put it under the 5 Pancha Mahabhutas.
Okay.
So when we talk about Pancha Mahabhutas, what, green buildings can be kind of put in a box with all these 5 Mahabhutas, where we talk about land, that is the site. So Dharti. So we have to think about Dharti. We have to think about Mother Earth while we do anything. And if any industry really destroys Mother Earth, it is construction industry.
Yeah.
So one of the requirements of green buildings is think about Mother Earth. So in this, what does it talk about? It talks about topsoil management. It talks about tree conservation. It talks about, taking care of the geo levels of our, earth.
Yeah.
So taking care of sedimentation tanks, how you kind of deal with your excavation story, as I call it. So all this comes under working with Mother Earth. The other part that we talk about is jal, that is water. Water saving, I think we all speak about rainwater harvesting. We speak about STPs, that is, sewage treatment plants. We speak about low flow fixtures, that is putting aerators to your taps. You talk about using irrigation technologies, which are like, using drip irrigation, using cut-off valves, your sensor-based irrigation systems. So all these are technologies which are helping us reduce water. That is jal. So that's about jal. Then it is vayu. So when you talk about vayu, what comes to your mind?
Air.
Air,
Yeah.
right? So air is all about the air we breathe.
Yeah.
And it's very important कि हम जो भी करते हैं हमारे लिए करते हैं. So the entire concept of green buildings is also about human health and well-being. COVID has given us a great lesson. And since then, the entire movement for green buildings or for sustainable buildings has gone up like skyrocketing high.
True.
Built environment, हमारी जिंदगी बहुत precious हो गई all of a sudden.
Everyone's
realizing that, and that is becoming very precious. So Vayu is about the indoor air quality and the air that we breathe inside. So that's very important, and that is how you do that through carbon monitoring equipments. Your air conditioning equipments need to have fresh air installed in it. So what is that? So basically, when you talk about your air conditioning systems having fresh air installed in it, it means that, if you have the same air getting circulated, the carbon dioxide levels are going to go high. And with fresh air being induced, you're actually reducing your impurities within. And actually so there are multiple technologies how you do it. It's called treated fresh air. So that's talking about indoor air quality. So we spoke about, site, we spoke about jal, we spoke about vayu, agni. How do you look at that?
Agni means the ground.
Agni is energy.
Energy. Okay.
So agni is about energy. So हम लोग solar PV की बात करते हैं. हम लोग wind energy की बात करते हैं. So, we talk about using light fixtures which are energy efficient. We talk about star rated air conditioning systems. So all this is about energy and working about with efficiency.
Yeah.
So that is, how we can reduce the energy, reduce consumption of energy. So that is working with Agni. And then finally moving to, so we spoke about earth, water, and finally moving to waste. So how do you look at waste? And I think that's like a big, big thing in our country and everywhere around the world we need to. So green buildings also talk about construction waste management, and they also talk about waste to be handled post-construction.
Okay.
So one is construction waste management really is given a lot of importance. So even your materials that you use should have materials which are made out of, waste. So
which is
recyclable materials or
Okay.
regional materials. So a lot of focus is given to recycled materials. So that is what you talk about, waste and materials, which is the fifth element of the entire circle.
Wow.
And that is how you can put a building. So you look at the site, you look at water, you look at energy, you look at waste and materials, because materials play a very, very important role in the entire built environment. Because हमारी एक बिल्डिंग बनाने के लिए how many 500, 700,000 हमें कितने materials लगते हैं?
Yeah.
And every material when we manufacture requires energy, requires water, produces waste. So that is why they say the construction industry is responsible for almost 40% of the total, environmental impact when you do.
Oh.
So that is, and then finally looking at the indoor air quality. So all these 5 elements, when you put them together and you look at it from a sustainable perspective, that's when a good or a green building can be curated.
So, like you mentioned, that waste post construction is there. So is it also pre-construction how
During
the
construction.
materials are
Yes,
made,
yes.
or how the materials are specifically made? Is it that
Yes,
also?
it's also that. So it's called Lifecycle assessment of a product.
Yeah.
So that is, I can give a entire section series on that, but
Sure.
I'll kind of put it in quick words for you.
Yeah.
When we talk about lifecycle assessment of products, so that is where we speak about, using materials which are green materials or green, and when you do a lifecycle assessment of a product, you actually dissect the product. कि वो कहाँ पे प्रोड्यूस हो रहा है, उसका रॉ मटेरियल कहाँ से आ रहा है, क्या क्या रॉ मटेरियल यूज़ हो रहा है, उसमें रिसाइकल्ड मटेरियल्स क्या क्या है, या कोई उसमें वेस्ट मटेरियल्स यूज़ हो रहा है क्या, एंड यू स्टडी ऑल दिस टुगेदर and then you find out the carbon footprint of the product.
Okay.
And that defines whether a product is green or no. So
Got
that
it.
is how you kind of put it together to call it, whether, so how do you decide whether a product is green or no? How do you say whether this glass is green? How do you decide whether, a brick is green, a green product?
Yeah.
There have to be some parameters, and that's how you define it through a life cycle analysis of the product.
What are few of these parameters, if you could say?
So when, if I had to put it, some of them are like use of raw materials. So what kind of raw materials? So how much percentage of, so it's called industrial. So there's something known as post-consumer or post-industrial waste that goes into manufacturing of a product. So I'll give you an example again, because that will really help you understand it better.
Yeah.
Look at AC blocks.
Yeah.
Look at steel. So do you think the steel that we use is virgin steel or recycled steel?
It is, so it's made out of scrap material itself.
Yeah.
And that's, the scrap is processed again.
Yes.
from
So
what I know.
basically, if you look at it,
Yeah.
there are two types of steel. That's virgin steel and recycled steel.
Okay.
As developers, we all use recycled steel.
Yeah.
Only in projects which are government projects use virgin steel.
Okay.
No other, because virgin steel is highly expensive.
True.
So in that sense, we all use recycled steel. So just to give you an example. Now let's look at a lot of adhesives. So आजकल बहुत सारे adhesives मिलते हैं market में, tile adhesive मिलते हैं. So we're working for a company called Magnus.
Okay.
For them we did a life cycle analysis of adhesives used for tiles or adhesives used for walls, any of these adhesives. So these adhesives are made from waste of foundry.
Wow.
So they're literally made, so there's 70% of the material is, waste, and 30% is maybe cement or whatever is required to make the binding agent proper. So for example, this product is a sustainable product because it's made from a waste.
Yeah.
So that kind of analysis defines whether a product is a green product or no. And then of course there is green certified products. So there's certification available in the market which is called Green Pro certification, which you can check. So if you want to check whether a product is green or no, you can ask a vendor, कि ये green product है क्या? और उसके लिए you can ask them कि हमें Green Pro certificate दिखाइए, या आपका LCA दिखाइए. तो that's when you can verify कि ये product green product है. Otherwise everybody will go and claim कि हमारा product green है, हमारा product green है.
Yeah. So speaking of certifications, when it comes to buildings, what are the various kind of certifications which are there?
So there are multiple now. In India, I'll be specific to India.
Yeah.
In India, there are about 5 which are very picking up in a big way or well known. The founding certification in the country or in the world is being LEED. That is Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, which is by the US Green Building Council. So that is where the entire green building movement started. Then comes IGBC, that's the Indian Green Building Council, which is very famous now because it is treated or it is retrofitted to Indian needs. And I think that's important because India is a diverse country with diverse climatic conditions, and it's important to work with a regional or a local certifying body because doing a sustainable building is also being local. And that's very important.
And you need to adapt to that specific country also.
Yeah, specific region, specific climate zone.
True.
I think that's equally important. So that's why IGBC is picked up widely in our country, and that's by CII, Confederation of Indian Industries, the Indian Green Building Council, they call it. IGBC is Indian Green Building Council.
Yes.
And then we have something known as GEM, which is a new rating system. It's about 4 or 5 year old rating system, which is by a body called ASSOCHEM.
Okay.
So, which is also now being used by multiple.
Are they Indian?
They're an Indian company.
Okay.
So these are federations which have derived these.
Which is the most recognized in India?
IGBC.
IGBC.
Yes. However, all government buildings go in for GRIHA.
Okay. What is that?
GRIHA. So GRIHA is a green rating for integrated habitat assessment. That's GRIHA. So all government buildings mostly go in for GRIHA certification, which is by MOEF. So Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. So they kind of have designed this. It started parallelly with IGBC. However, it is more government-centric. You can do it for any project. So it's not that only government projects have to do it. All kind of projects can go in for GRIHA certification also.
Okay. So why should a developer choose green building technology? I mean, what's in it for them?
So I think there are 3 aspects. Again, I always put it as people, planet, and profit.
Okay.
I think all 3 are very important for a developer, for any businessman. Let me not put it as a developer, but for any businessman.
Yeah.
Let's dissect it in that way and put it as people. So when we put it as people, there is definitely something known as demand supply. And now sustainability is no more just a buzzword, and there is demand. So your question was, why should a developer go for it? One, there is definitely an ask. In terms of commercial buildings, the industry is demanding it left, right, center. So if you go to any of these Google, or you ask Apple, or you ask any of the companies which are listed companies or multinationals, it's a mandate to them.
Okay.
To go in for sustainable products, as I call it. A sustainable building is a product for them.
Yeah.
And they must go in for these. So people are demanding it. Second is planet, which is something that, is a very gray area. Because are we really looking at planet as being important, or how important it is? If we are sensitive towards it, we got to do this. And sustainability is nothing but being sensitive towards planet. While we say this, there's a very interesting thing when we talk about green buildings. I don't know if there's a word called crisis in Chinese. If you actually, dissect it, and I'll send you an image of that. What does that mean? It means danger plus opportunity. While Earth is in danger, the human or the mankind always finds opportunities. And green building is an opportunity, or making us think differently to find solutions for a sustainable or a better tomorrow. Had we not had sustainability, we would have not looked at recycling products. We would have not looked at upcycling products. We wouldn't have looked at the waste that we are generating. So because we saw some danger, a lot of businesses have grown out, which is an opportunity for people also.
Yeah.
So sustainability is also an opportunity for people. And so many businesses are evolving out of it. So people are important. Planet is also important. And finally, profit. Profit is equally important, and that's where we talk about business. In the construction sector, let me focus purely on the construction sector and not go to fashion industry or any other industry, because every industry, sustainability is being looked at.
Yeah.
We're talking about ESG for companies to be followed. We are talking about EcoVadis, which is a government compliance for industries. So which is something that I'm not covering here. But focusing mainly on the construction sector, the government also realizes that the construction sector needs to look at sustainability, because otherwise it's going to have a great impact. With this in mind, there are a lot of incentives that are being offered by the government at the national level and also at the local level. So to put in from Maharashtra perspective, the UDC PR is giving 3%, 5% and 7% extra FAR on base FSI.
Okay.
So that's very important for the developer. If I had to put that in terms of the value that is generated, so 3% of the base FSI, say we have a project of 1 lakh square feet. And the base FSI is about 60,000, and then there is
Yeah.
TDR and there's premium FSI and all those aspects,
Ancillary,
ancillary FSI and stuff. So on that, you're going to get 3%, which is very minuscule. So 3,000 square feet is what I look at it, or 5,000. So 3,000, 5,000, or 7,000 square feet, is what you're going to get. Now, when I put that in number value, what is the, 3,000 square foot अगर मैं बेचती हूँ तो मुझे कितना पैसा मिलने वाला है?
Correct.
Of course, different zones have different prices, but 3,000 square feet would give me about, I'm just taking 10,000 as a, standard rate. And so how much would that be? Yeah? So 3,000 into 10,000, that will be around 3 crores. So the value that you get. So in that sense, if you invest that back into the project, that is what the green building really requires in terms of investment. So maybe you will still get profit, but let's not put sustainability as a profit-making position yet.
Okay.
Let's look at it as an investment towards a better project, is what I look at it.
So, do you think that sustainability can be achieved without compromising on profits?
So the government is giving you benefits. That's exactly how I put it, that the government is giving you benefits to redeem or to get, so that you don't have to bear any cost for your project, additional costs. That is how the government is looking at it. Let me put it again divide it into 3 parts: residential, commercial, and industrial. Looking at only residential and commercial, according to me, or according to our study with so many projects that we do, I can say that residential projects don't cost more.
Okay.
So if you're doing a project which is going in for environmental clearance or an EC project, you're really not investing anything extra. Just do it right, and you've got your green project certified. Okay. So if you do a green project, which also falls into the EC parameters, I think you really don't have to spend anything extra other than the certification and the consultancy cost, which is really minuscule according to. So that is really, you're not putting anything from your pocket. However, you're also getting marketing benefits, you're getting advantages, which is, I think, a great bet in today's time and era for going in for sustainability. So your basic question as to does it cost more? Residential? No. Commercial? Yes. You do have to put in a 3% extra, because some of the requirements, typically when we talk about fresh air, or we talk about your DGU, or multiple, your lifts that you use. So if you're doing a conventional commercial versus if you want to do a green project, there is a cost implication, is what I could, openly put it. And that would vary between 3 to 5%, which you can take from your FSI benefit.
Okay, so you get additional FSI.
FSI, so that kind of gets compensated, but you're investing the whole amount in the project again.
Okay, and you mentioned certifications. So when do you get a 3, when do you get a 5 and a 7?
So 3% is, I'm talking from IGBC perspective, but any rating agency gives you the same benefits.
Okay.
So 3% is for silver, 5% is for gold, and 7% is for platinum.
If you could explain just in short, what are the key differentiators between platinum, like you mentioned IGBC platinum, and silver?
So वो बोलते हैं ना कि थोड़ा काम करोगे तो थोड़ा ही मिलता है.
हाँ.
ज़्यादा करोगे तो ज़्यादा मिलता है. So when you work little or you give little, I would say whatever you upload, whatever specifications or whatever amenities you load on your project also define the percentage. But more, I would say more so, it is also few points are to do with the site. If you have a very, very compact site, you can't achieve landscape. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Very true. मतलब मैं बहुत चाहती हूँ कि मुझे platinum project चाहिए. अरे भाई, पर मेरे पास landscape नहीं है. How do I get a platinum project?
Yeah.
So as a developer, one must understand the capabilities of the site or the restrictions of the site, which kind of also help you define your scope. So the difference between सिल्वर आई वुड से हर कोई कर सकता है, मतलब इवन अ स्मॉल प्रोजेक्ट और अ बिग प्रोजेक्ट कैन गो इन. लेट मी पुट गोल्ड एंड प्लैटिनम बिकॉज दैट्स वेयर द फाइट हैपेंस कि अरे हम गोल्ड तक पहुंच गए, हमें प्लैटिनम तक पहुंचना है, यू नो. सो दैट फाइट इज काइंड ऑफ डिफिकल्ट बिकॉज अ लॉट ऑफ क्लाइंट्स विल कम इन, क्या यार प्रणति इतना तो कर दे, थोड़ा सा ही तो चाहिए. मैं बोली थोड़ा सा कहाँ से लाऊं?
True.
You know, so that fight are, I would put it again in 3 parts. One is your landscape. Landscape plays a very important role in green buildings because the bylaw says 10% open space on ground.
Okay.
The green building norm say 15% open space on ground. हम 10 के लिए struggle करते हैं, हम 15 कहाँ से लाएंगे?
True.
Now, while that is important, it is also, you know, some other things like you can't do a clubhouse on it. Of course, now the bylaws have also changed, where they are saying कि open is open, कि तुम लोग उस पे बाकी चीजें नहीं डाल सकते हो. But these are some things that are really not in your or my scope. You know, they're site-specific scopes. Then second, I would say in a residential, in a residential project, the amenities that you give or your specifications. Now, one of the very important things that a lot of projects, you know, fail, which is really sad, but it's in terms of design, cross ventilation, or daylight. A lot of projects, because again of the design constraints, don't meet daylight parameters, don't meet cross ventilation parameters. Because so if this is a room and I have to have minimum 2 windows in a bedroom, now a lot of projects don't meet that because, you know, baju mein it's a flat project and, you know, there are 2 walls which are common, 1 window, kitchen में 1 window भी कैसे वैसे हम देते हैं duct में. So these are challenges of design again, and that is why it's important that you must look at your design consideration. You must look at what potential your project has in terms of landscape or amenities, and these are some things which kind of define your gold or platinum.
Okay. And
I'm talking from a residential perspective.
Yes, got it. And we also spoke about environmental clearance. So this is a very big issue for developers. Ma'am, I want to ask, why does EC take so much time?
I don't want to kind of jump into that. No, that's a very sensitive topic on a talk like this. But I'll just give you some things. One, it's government compliance. The norms, so if you really look at the environmental clearance norms, और अगर हम genuinely उसे करते ना, तो green building की ज़रूरत नहीं, मैं बोलती हूँ.
Okay.
You know, some way I feel, you know, they really actually look at eco-sensitive zone. You're talking about traffic analysis. You're talking about, so ECBC, you need to give a report. So I don't know if you're aware of all the reports that you need to submit with your, you know, for environmental clearance. You need to do traffic analysis, you need to do shadow analysis, you need to do ECBC, energy conservation building code analysis, and multiple reports that you need to submit.
Okay.
अगर हम genuinely ये सब करते ना, we don't need green building certification. We would actually meet everything. That's one thing. Your second part is, you know, इतना time क्यों लगता है? Now that is something that, you know, it's more to do with your regulators, your body, your, you know, systems. There have been multiple efforts to fast track it. There have been multiple, you know, meetings, and we have an EC committee within CREDI or within multiple organizations where we are trying to, you know, see that more and more projects get streamlined. But that challenge, I don't know how we are going to get through as a compliance base. So that's more to do with the regulations and the regulatory bodies.
And in case of green buildings, do you get EC faster? Is there something like that?
I don't know if I should share a story of our own journey. So 2000, I think मेरी शादी हुई 2015-16, you know. So I had just delivered. And in that particular time, I don't know if you're aware, but you would get fast track environmental clearance if you had a green building pre-cert.
Okay.
So there was a regulation or a norm that said कि अगर आपका pre-cert का जो हम लोग अभी FSI जिससे लेते हैं, so we give a pre-cert certificate. You need to get a pre-certification done. Only then you can get your FAR benefits.
Yeah.
Similarly, तब भी ऐसी ही कुछ condition थी, and you know, getting an EC clearance was like a Hercules task, you know. It was like impossible और लोगों की 6 महीने 9 महीने की लाइन थी, and that is where they said कि fast track मिलेगा अगर आप pre-cert करते हो. And the number of pre-certifications that we did in that era was not even funny.
How many?
I don't even want to name those. I don't even. So, but it was just to give you, you know, we did like in an एक महीने में 15 20 हम लोग करते थे.
Wow.
You know, but did they go in for certification? So as developers, we really need to rethink about what we did.
True.
And hence that ruling was removed. You know, you wouldn't, that fast track for EC, you know, because if you had a pre-certification was kind of rethought at that. I think after some time they realized these issues because people were not going in for final certification.
Okay.
So that is, as developers, we need to be sure of what we are committing to.
True.
Whether it is EC or whether it is, you know, FAR. So even in green buildings, I say कि, you know, अगर आपको platinum भी मिलता है, take 5%. Let's not be greedy. अगर मिलता है तो great. It's going to help our project. It's going to help our brand.
Yeah.
But let's, you know, not jump into something what we are not sure of. And if we can't deliver, we'll be in trouble. So all these things need to be really thought as developers also.
Very true. Do you have any suggestions for the EC department?
EC committee, I wouldn't again put them here because it's these are sensitive topics.
True, but just your suggestions which you think might streamline the process and make it faster.
So I think EC and IGBC or green certifications should really work hand in hand to get better outputs and see if they can, you know, synergize for a better environment, because finally the entire motto is reducing impact through development or saving energy, saving water, saving, you know, Mother Earth. And that if we can do, if that's your broader agenda, let's, you know, work in, you know, cohesion with, let's work together to ensure that we can get this done. So that's a suggestion. I don't know how it can be done, what policies need to be put together, but I'll definitely share something that we're doing with PCMC, you know, and that more and more developers should go in for this.
Okay, sure. And talking about green buildings, what are the documentations which are different? Are there any documentations which are different from a conventional RCC structure or?
Documentation in what sense?
Any forms of documentations which need to be submitted or any forms of studies which...
Bahut.
Can you name a few?
Got to do a lot. You got to do a lot. One, firstly, you got to be committed. So I think, you know, you got to be committed to, if you decide you're going in for green certification, it's not going to come in just by saying ki Pranati kar dal. That doesn't happen. You got to do a few things, and I'm really happy it's still voluntary and not mandatory, because the minute it becomes mandatory, we're all going to find loopholes.
Very true.
So I've always been of the belief that green building certification should never become mandatory. It should always stay voluntary. Incentives are great, but should not become mandatory, because otherwise you're going to find loopholes too, and you're going to kind of destroy the whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
So that is one of my thoughts on that. In terms of documentation, there's a bunch of documentation that needs to be done, and you know, the entire. So I would put it in three or four perspectives on that. One is site. First is design. So involve somebody to guide you through the design process, like I mentioned about daylight, cross ventilation. ये सब design में हो सकता है. अगर आप मुझे बाद में आगे बोले कि अरे ये मेरा design, ये मेरा sanction हो गया, figure it out. It gets complicated, and you have to let go of a few points.
True.
Or you have to let go of a few credits, and then you say अरे क्यों मेरे को platinum नहीं मिल रहा है, मेरे को gold नहीं मिल रहा है. So these are challenges. Second is site. You know, it's very sad, or it's very difficult to actually manage site, because site पे इतने pressures होते हैं execution के, और अब ये green building भी लाके रख दिया. So you know, it's like कि हमें अरे कम काम थे क्या कि हमें आपने हमारे और एक compliance बढ़ा दिए, kind of, you know. So it's important how you have your site team to actually do the documentation, because we need 6 monthly reviews need to be submitted. You need POs of all the materials that you buy. You
Okay.
need invoices, you need photographs, you need signages, you need a lot of documentation. So all this needs to be done, and it can't just happen by saying ki ho jayega. So it's also a top-down approach, which I think a developer needs to be committed. कि मुझे genuinely करना है. And it's really nice to see more and more developers being more committed to this, because they don't just want to do it for the heck of it. They genuinely understand. They want to understand STP systems. They want to understand which organic composters should come. They want to look at what kind of lifts are available in the market, what kind of pumps are available, which are the sustainable brands, क्या इससे energy saving होगी. So it's not just saying कि just get me a certificate. More and more younger developers are really looking at this, and I'm really glad that that's happening. But yes, there is a lot of documentation that is required, which is, one is understanding कि हमें ये सब करना है, और इसको हमें support करना है genuine documentation से और genuine work से on site. Because finally the team is going to visit the site, is going to check it, and going to see that compliance happens.
True. Your company, Sustain and Save, provide green building consultancy. So what are the various green services that you provide to developers?
So we don't just provide green building certification.
Okay.
So that's one thing, let me tell you. Sustain and Save is an umbrella, is like a pie or a wheel, as we put it, which provides multiple solutions. We say we are a one-stop solution on sustainability. So we are not just for the developers, we are for all industries.
Okay.
We work for all industries. Let me put all our services together and share what we really offer. Under Sustain and Save, we offer consultancy, which is what all of y'all are known us for so many years. Last 15 years, we've been known for our consultancy. That is our first service. We also provide ESG solutions. That is, I don't know if you know what ESG stands for, but that is environment, social, and governance.
Okay.
So companies and industries need to do ESG records, or they need to do ESG compliances, and the company works with provides ESG solutions for corporates, for developers. So if you're tomorrow thinking of going in for a listing, or going in, so if you want to grow, it becomes very important that you put your ESG report. Even if you want to get investments from banks, or you want to get investments from foreign companies, ESG is a very important part for companies to comply with. So that's one service that we provide. The third services is LCA, Lifecycle Analysis of Products. So we work with a lot of automobile companies, we work with textile companies, we work with multiple companies where we give life cycle analysis of products. We dissect products to what is the carbon footprint, because we no more talk whether it is in buildings, whether it is in products, whether it is in the fashion industry. There are so many stories that you hear of fashion industry or cosmetic industry talking about our products being eco-friendly, or green labeled, and then there are scams that have come out. So it all needs to be studied and documented and actually proven right, whether your products are really green products. And that is what we do for multiple industries. So that is our third vertical, which is the life cycle analysis. While we do this, we also work with green products. So we have a bunch of directories which we have available. So if you need, which is a green product in an X sector, we'll be happy to share with you, because we work with a lot of vendors and companies. Wow. So we are now actually going to officially launch a portal, which is going to be an open portal for green products, and for which are focusing on construction industry as one of the major sectors for y'all, but also on other sectors. So that is the fourth vertical. The fifth part is our platform, which is something that is the beta phase has been launched. We also have an IT company, basically, which works on sustainable, products in the IT space, not in the, not like a product, but a IT product, where we work with the government, and we are providing solutions for the government to map their sustainability impact. So we are working with PCMC, we are working with multiple other governments to actually see, how we can help the government also to get sustainable solutions through a technology-based platform.
So, what are the various functions of this platform?
Actually, I'm just going to put some of them out right now because
Sure.
they are
It's
all
still in beta
Yeah,
phase.
so I'll put what we are doing. I can't put out the government platforms yet because they'll be officially launched by the government soon. But what we are helping them with is helping the end user get tax rebates, because if you know, there's a policy that if you are doing living in a green project, or if you have a functional STP, if you have a functional organic waste composter or a solar PV for your common amenities, you can actually get property tax rebate
Oh,
of 3%, 5%, 8%, and 10% on your property tax as an individual owner, if you are living in a green building or if you comply with some of the sustainability parameters. I don't know how many consumers really know about this.
wow.
So, and that is where we are helping them make a platform, which should be out soon with the government putting it out, and more people should take benefit of that. So that is what we are doing with the government. That's a tax rebate platform. At Sustain and Save, we are having our own platform, and all our customers would then be able to find out the net zero, journey for their own buildings. So if you are registered with us, you will be able to get that also.
And get the entire report.
Yes.
Wow. So, since you're providing all of these services, what are some of the biggest challenges you face while promoting sustainability in a country like India?
Well, let me tell you, the journey since 2012 to now has been like a roller coaster. So it's been a lovely journey. Sustainability is more passion for me. I can't compare it to a developer's journey, because जो डेवलपर कमाता है वो शायद मैं सस्टेनेबिलिटी में कभी नहीं कमा पाऊंगी एज ऑन टुडे. आई डोंट नो व्हाट हैपेंस टुमारो, बट माय फ्रेंड्स वुड ऑलवेज जोक विथ मी कि व्हाई यू डूइंग दिस. तो क्या ऐसे छोटा कुछ तो भी कर रही है. व्हेन आई स्टार्टेड इन 2013 एंड दे वर ऑल डेवलपर्स, दे वर ऑल आर्किटेक्ट्स, दे वुड से व्हाई यू डूइंग दिस. nobody is going to give you any घास-फूस. तू ही घास-फूस बना और तू ही घास-फूस खा types. So that is how we began. But it was a passion project for me. Also, of course, I will not say that it didn't give me money, but it can't be compared to many other businesses, because it's finally a consultancy and it's a service. But 2012 was, like the beginning, and it was very difficult to actually convince people to believe in sustainability, because it was in the nascent journey of the entire thought process on sustainability. And 2019, I remember when COVID hit, we were just picking up, literally just picking up, and cut, it went. And I didn't know how to pay my employees during the lockdown. So we did a lot of online trainings.
Oh.
So all of us would do, online trainings. My employees would make presentations and we would charge for trainings. So, I've charged, it starts from 1,000, 5,000, jo bhi. Matlab, you do a lot of trainings. And that's how I would pay my employees at that particular point, because I said everybody has to be paid and we all need to do something.
True.
But what happened through that journey was, when we got back to office, I think the whole air around us changed. All of a sudden, sustainability became like the talk of the town. People started talking about it. People started believing in it. The world spoke about it like, "Bhai, tum kya kar rahe ho?" You got to wake up. And that's what happened with sustainability. It was like a big rocket that has come into everybody's life now, and it's really picked up. So it's been a great last 3-4 years, and we've really enjoyed the last 3-4 years on people believing in us, people believing that it's required, people actually talking about it and wanting to do something. So I'll share a very quick thing that we did, in July, August. I have always been wanting to, work on circular economy. कि मुझे हर सेक्टर के लोग को टच करना है. डेवलपर्स को भी टच करना है, मुझे कंज्यूमर्स को के साथ भी काम करना है, मुझे गवर्नमेंट के साथ भी काम करना है, मुझे आई थिंक एवरी सेक्टर प्लेज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल टू actually ensure that we live a sustainable life.
Yeah.
Because that is what the whole concept is all about, not just building or not. आप बनाएंगे, but if the buyer does not ask for it, you're not going to be able to sell it. So I always think it's important to touch base on it. And we did a show called Green Umbrella, which happened in August this year. So again, just out of the blues, it came as a thought process, and I had somebody who said, "Chal, मैं तेको support करती हूँ." With the limited man hours that I had in my capacity, she said, "Let's do a sustainable exhibition." And I had a friend called Chaitali who said, "I'll take it up with you. You just guide me and we'll do this together." And we did Green Umbrella, and it was touching the consumers. The kind of feedback I got, so we had Two Brothers, which is an organic food brand.
Yeah.
Then we had, Recharkha, we had Eco Kari, we had somebody who made, swimwear. It's called, I can't get it, swimwear, which is made out of recycled, fabric. And the kind of products that we saw, and we saw the journey of, people or entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs working in the sustainability sector, is quite interesting. So I don't know if you've heard of a brand called Good Gum.
Okay.
So they make chewing gums which are biodegradable. Chewing gum has plastic in it, if you're aware. And if you put it in the, if you spit it out, it can never get biodegradable. It can never get, composted. It will always stay there into the environment. So Good Gum is a brand which did that. So I'm just sharing a few stories about what. And then we reached the consumer sector. So we've always tried to work. And I think today, after so many years, 15 years in this journey, I've been able to complete the circle and actually work with all the sectors. And I think that's where sustainability is taking off. More and more people are talking about it. The terminology has changed. Let me share that. So the terminology I've been using is wrong, actually. We now speak net zero. We now speak decarbonization. We no more speak eco-friendly.
Yeah.
So it's become like, "Arey, eco-friendly to kal ki terminology," but it all means the same. It all means, creating an environment for a better tomorrow. And that's what our bigger mission is. So while at Sustain and Save, so, you need to sustain in the world. And while you do that, you've got to save. And that's why that entire thing of circular economy and working together as a company, which is all about.
Apart from this, you've led initiatives like, I think, Plastic Free Month and waste segregation campaigns. So we as normal, regular people, how can we incorporate sustainability in our lives?
I actually didn't speak about my Sweden journey. I don't think I spoke about that. So in 2012, I got a scholarship to Sweden, a fully funded scholarship in 2012. That was a year of kind of glamour, kind of, a year of experimentation, a year of figuring out what sustainability was for me. And I got a scholarship in sustainability and management, which was a program by the Swedish Institute, which is a fully funded program. And my parents were shocked. Definitely, they were like, "Who the hell is going to, fund you? Tere air tickets bhi bhar rahe, tera sab stay bhi dekh rahe, and who are these people? I need to go check." And they actually flew to Sweden to check whether this actually exists or कि ये कोई fake है, because मेरे बच्चे पे 4-5 लाख कौन spend कर रहा है, at that point of time. But it was one of the greatest learnings. Sweden is far ahead when you talk about what they do in the stories of environment, in stories of net zero, in stories of creating impact. I think they also are third when you actually see it on the map, for second or third on actually towards their journey on net zero. So there are different countries which have different goals. Some countries have made it to 2030. Some have said net zero by 2050. India says we'll go net zero by 2070. Which is like a very, very ambitious plan. But that is why the government is also pushing all out कि बाबा सबको करना पड़ेगा, तभी हम ये goal achieve कर सकेंगे. That government can't do it alone.
True.
So that is, and Sweden taught me a lot of these unique concepts. They taught me simple things like blogging. And I was heading the Sweden alumni in Maharashtra and Goa for almost 4 years until last year. This year, somebody else is heading. And that journey where through that entire interaction, I could do a lot of social initiatives. And I think that was really interesting. You spoke about plastic collection or talking about plastic-free lifestyle, or we also had ran this competition which spoke about Eat, Move, Live Challenge. We have been fortunate enough to associate with IKEA for a very interesting challenge, which is like a lifestyle challenge. So these are things that Sweden taught us, and then we brought it to the common man.
Okay.
So that is where one of them was the plogging story. I was with Vikram Kumar sir on a dais, and when I got off, I said, "Sir, मेरे पास एक idea है. Can we do this post-COVID?" He said, "What do you have in mind?" I said, "Can we have the largest plogathon, which is jog and pick up plastic waste while you jog. So run and pick up plastic waste."
Wow.
There are a lot of blogger groups in Pune now which do plastic collection drives every Saturday. And I said, let's make it a mass movement and have more and more people get involved and pick up plastic while they jog. And we actually, Pune has an Asia Book of Record and India Book of Record for highest number of people collecting plastic at the same time in a day.
Wow,
So we had
that's
Supriya
amazing.
Sule, yeah, and I was heading that campaign, so I can really proudly say that these were small things with great impact, and Pune is a conscious city, so all this can happen here, and people do volunteer and come out to do this. We also did a very interesting program with Vicky, where we did plastic collection drives right in the middle of lockdown, and trust me, the way women actually came out and started, segregating waste and started speaking about plastic waste segregation. It was nice because I think everybody needs some motivation. And this kind of helps you to start thinking. Suppose that so many people have actually collaborated or have had Swachh or Rudra to do plastic waste collection for them on weekly basis. So all this is just like a starting point for human behavioral change, which can then lead to bigger impact stories.
True. You are just so passionate about sustainability, whether be it your personal life, whether be it the various drives that you have come up with, even in your business. How are you so passionate?
My house is a platinum certified bungalow, by the way.
IGBC.
IGBC platinum,
Wow.
the first in the country, I think, that time.
Wow. So you're living by it.
Yes. We do keep fighting about a few challenges that we have, but in my room there are 2 bins. In our house, we have an e-waste bin, we have a plastic bin, we have a paper bin, we have all separate bins, and I kind of, agar mere aise plastic bag leke aate na, main 100 rupees, I'm like, you give me 100 rupees, then you take these plastic bags. That's how we go.
So you completely talk, walk, live sustainability.
Yes, and
overall.
I could also compliment it by saying that my husband stands by it even more.
Wow.
He kind of supports it. मैं तो सिर्फ बोलती हूँ. He kind of goes to the grassroots and implements it. So I think that's kudos to a companion who actually supports this cause also.
That's amazing. But what drives you to keep being so motivated and still promoting, like you mentioned, the challenges in the real estate industry or any other industry in overall India, to keep on, promoting sustainability?
I think अब तो कुछ है नहीं ज़्यादा. मतलब what it was तब challenging था. अब तो everybody wants to do it. So now is the time of opportunity. Rather, more and more people should come out. More and more people should be a part of this journey. You're not doing it for anybody else. You're doing it for yourself now.
True.
I think it's understanding it for yourself. It is, you can implement it in business. You can implement it in your personal lives. You can implement it in, your surroundings. And koi bhi chota. So there's nothing like, it's for the big or the small. It's for everyone. Rather, it's for masses and classes.
Yeah.
So it is something that if everybody takes it up, we can make impact which is can really multifold, because we are all educated, we are all part of an ecosystem who can make a difference. Or if agar हमने किया तो don't tell, do what you speak.
Yeah.
And I think that's how it works in terms of the journey of sustainability. And India has a lot to do. When you talk
Long
about
journey still.
So I wouldn't say हमने शुरुआत की है, but we also must understand we are a country with young population.
Yeah.
We are a country with lot of human resource. While it is a boon and a great advantage, if we come together and say कि हम, like Indore is such a great example for our country. There are so many, municipal corporations which are actually trying to do a lot of work. As citizens, we need to kind of work with them, instead of blaming people, let's us put it on कि मैं करता हूँ. If हर एक बोलेगा मैं करता हूँ, तो then it's going to make it a ripple effect. It's going to be a ripple effect.
True. Apart from this, speaking about green buildings again, what are the benefits of a green building for a home buyer?
I was talking about tax rebate. So if you actually, as per bylaws, if you're staying in a green building, you are eligible for 5%, 8%, and 10%. So if it's a silver, it's 5%. If it's a gold certified, it's 8% and 10% property tax rebate for individual owners.
Wow.
So one must look at it. We are hopeful that we'll be able to help the governments get this, running and rolling, so the end user can also benefit from something that the developer wishes to implement. As developers, we are making an attempt to go in for green buildings. More and more people are trying to do that. The journey or the entire process is only complete if the end user actually maintains it and uses it.
Yeah.
All the benefits that we are, actually loading on the
Is
project.
there a reduced maintenance as compared to an RCC building or anything like that? A regular?
So in terms of maintenance, that's one challenge that, because you have to run an STP.
Wow.
You have to run an organic waste composter. You have to have your solar PVs functional. So that is the most thing. But in the long term, your operation cost will go down. So one is the maintenance cost and one is the operation cost. So both have to be looked at. And you don't always have to look at it from a maintenance cost. You have to also look at it from the burden that you're putting on the city. So if we don't recycle the water, if we don't reuse the water, what's going to happen? We are going to have that water go into the rivers. We are going to have it go into the larger ecosystem. How much can they recycle? So that is why they're putting it to us, because they know they have a capacity of X as a city. So if we want the city to grow, we'll all have to, as a community, as people, we'll all have to see that our STPs run or organic waste composters run, so that less and less waste goes into the landfill.
True. And lastly, do you have any words of advice for developers or other businesses to incorporate sustainability, or even for that, say, aspiring developers who are passionate about sustainability?
We have quite a few developers who are passionate, and like I have a developer who's made a small project. The project name is Soil Story. Then we have Kunal Group that we are working. So we have multiple developers, and that's young blood, as I put it, who are very passionate about making projects which are green projects. And I'm hoping more and more developers will come in. So Pune is one of the best examples. I can proudly say that Pune has the highest green projects in the country.
Wow.
Which is phenomenal. I think next to Bombay in terms of square feet area, because Bombay ka square feet ka game plan ho jata hai. But we are, literally there. So Bombay and Pune, where we actually do a lot of work, both these cities have great green building footprints. And be genuine, do a good job, and try to implement solutions to its core. Don't, like simple 5 things like having aerators in all your taps, or using products which are green products. Try and see if you can use them, because they don't cost more anymore. So I think as developers, as young developers, I think you're in the right place at the right time. Make full benefit of it. And sustainability is not just a buzzword. It's the need of the hour. So implement it with passion, with compassion, and with true belief. Thank you.
Wow. You definitely practice what you preach.
Thank you.
And it was an honor to host you on my podcast.
Thank you so much.